What if I told you that one of the most obviously manipulated games in recent memory was just played by the Indiana Fever? This time, there was another villain involved in addition to the referees. The events of that evening might have been the ideal storm to stop the Fever in its tracks. The Dallas Wings defeated the Fever 81-80. This wasn't just a one-point heartbreaker, let's face it. This was a masterclass in how to steal a victory without improving your basketball skills. Who turned out to be the true MVPs? The three individuals with stripes. It felt strange from the first whistle. That whistle was selective as well as tight. Paige Bucker's shoves to make room. Nothing. Sophie Cunningham's whistle is so close to her breath. Then came the moment that fans are still unable to go past. Quarter 4. Fever is rising. Momentum is shifting, the crowd is electric, and Buickers is obviously reaching out. That is an offensive foul according to all basketball rulebooks. But not tonight. Rather, the whistle works against Cunningham. After Dallas gains possession, the momentum abruptly disappears. The frustration was evident. Caitlin Clark gave the referees a mocking applause. In the post-game interview, Coach Stephanie White criticized the unfair treatment. To be fair, though, she was responsible for some of her own coaching errors.
I think she plays puke ball. I think she plays slow. I think she plays boring basketball. I think she often gives players too much of a leash when she shouldn't. Gives players she should give a leash, more of a leash to. None of it. She doesn't seem to believe in the hot hand. In fact, she seems to do the opposite of the hot hand, where if a player makes a couple of shots, she pulls them.
Guys, today, it's bad enough when you have the referees being so incompetent, so inconsistent, clearly calling things one way for a certain player and calling it another way for another player.
You can just see right here, Sophie and Paige. Sophie has her arms out. Sophie doesn't have her arms on Paige, and Paige just shoves her. Paige just shoves her, and it's called a foul on Sophie. But then this is, in my opinion, one of the most egregious calls I've ever seen in basketball. I think she deserves to be a WNBA coach. I think she's a terrible decision maker. She's terrible. She's a negative basketball coach.
This was an embarrassing performance. How do you lose at home to the Dallas Wings? You lose at home to the Dallas Wings that lost to the gum on the bottom of the shoe, Chicago Sky 3 times. They lost to the Sky 3 times. You lose to the Dallas Wings. Man, stop it, man. Stephanie White is a joke.
I just watched one of the biggest puke fest I've ever seen in my entire life. 1-3 run at home by the opposing team on you, when the opposing team is the Dallas Wings and they're not.
Nevertheless, Indiana rallied with 193 runs after falling behind by 17 earlier. Despite having every opportunity to seize it, they were unsuccessful. And you can see the pattern when you play it again. The court wasn't level. It was skewed, and the entire tilt was moving directly in the direction of the Wings bench. However, you should reconsider if you believed that the referees were the only ones undermining the Fever on August 12th, because holding the clipboard while standing directly on the sidelines was the second issue. Yes, we must discuss Stephanie White. Imagine this. Fever is reduced by 1. Natasha Howard catches a rebound. The clock is running out of time. At this point, you anticipate that your coach will call a timeout right away, devise a game-winning play, and give your team a clear chance to win. But nothing instead. Seconds pass by quickly. The audience is yelling. Finally, she calls it when there are only 1.7 seconds remaining. What precisely are you sketching? You only have time for that, therefore it's a miracle. And the manipulation of the clock wasn't the only issue. There was no logic to the player rotations. The majority of the game is spent glued to the bench by Lexi Hull, a proven spark earlier this season. In the meanwhile, players who haven't yet clicked with the lineup are playing a lot of minutes. The outcome was a team that appeared to have met for the first time in the locker room prior to tip-off, zero spacing, and a poor defense. The absence of modifications is another issue. The referees allowed the Wings to act aggressively throughout the entire game. The reaction of the Fever. Everything is going as usual. No change of tempo, no counter. Even the game's early timeouts were excruciatingly timed. Dallas takes off. It's obvious that momentum is swinging. And White simply lets the bleeding continue rather than putting an end to it. The harm has already been done by the time she calls for a huddle. And it's not just one horrible night. This is not new to us. White's method appears to simply collapse whenever the Fever stars are out of rhythm or, worse, hurt. This season, Caitlin Clark has already missed almost 20 games. 20. White continues to try to put everyone into the same inflexible mold, rather than changing the offense to match the pieces she has. That isn't coaching. Autopilot is that. Additionally, autopilot destroys you in close games. This is the part that hurts the most. This was hardly a defeat at the hands of a dominant team. This was the Dallas Wings, a club that had lost 5 straight games. A team that has been having trouble versus nearly everyone. Additionally, they walked over you rather than just scraping past. That's not merely a defeat. That serves as a warning. Let's take a moment to zoom out, because this isn't just about one bad night in August. The WNBA seems to be moving forward on 2 broken wheels at the moment. One referred to poor officiating, while the other questioned coaching. The most recent evidence was the defeat to the Wings on August 12th. Let's begin with the referees. No, it has nothing to do with a single unfortunate whistle. This issue has persisted throughout the season. Fans, coaches, and players have all expressed the same opinion. It's a selective whistle. A player is hacked without warning. The following person is sent directly to the free throw line by the tiniest touch. It hurts much more when it occurs during major games, particularly when celebrities like Caitlin Clark are playing. Flagrance that appears to exist only in theory, missed calls, and phantom fouls. Fans are not foolish. When a game isn't fair, they can sense it. Stephanie White, however, is the other wheel. The strange rotations, the late timeouts, and the reluctance to make adjustments as the opposing side gains momentum. Drawing XS and OS on a whiteboard is only one aspect of coaching. When the storm strikes, it's about keeping your crew fighting. Those moments pass her by much too frequently. When you combine those two issues with dubious whistles and poor coaching choices, you have the ideal recipe for annoyance. This is where things get risky. The league is attempting to expand. With that enormous $2.2 billion media agreement, they are making a lot of effort to gain new fans. But what good is it if people start believing? Are referees or coaching errors the deciding factor in games? Fans want to believe in the product rather than the athletes competing. They want to have faith that their side will prevail if they play well enough. That trust is crumbling right now. Additionally, the WNBA runs the risk of losing more games if they don't improve officiating and assist coaches like White in improving their skills. They run the risk of losing the momentum they've worked so hard to establish. Here's the worst part. Stephanie White had a lot to say about the referees, the double standards, and the calls that gave Dallas possession after the game. Yes, some of it was true. What did she not say, though? Not a word about her own errors. Not a word on the delayed timeout. Not a word about the dubious rotations. Nothing about the gradual, predictable changes. Unfortunately, this is nothing new. Stepping up to the microphone and pointing fingers outward rather than within is Stephanie White's tendency. Every loss hurts twice as much because of this cycle. Because how can the team possibly make things right if the head coach won't own her own part in the issue? The parts are in the Fever. This is a team that should be making long postseason runs, not drowning in excuses, with Boston Mitchell and Caitlin Clark when she's well. The tone is set by leadership. Additionally, the culture subtly changes from "we'll get better" to "it's someone else's fault" when accountability ends at the locker room door. That's precisely how promising seasons end. Indiana cannot afford to lose another game that could be won since Clark will be out for weeks. All possessions are important. Every error matters. Every choice made by the bench has the power to change the course of the entire season. Furthermore, the future of the Fever quickly becomes uncertain if White continues to overlook her own mistakes. It's not that the talent is lacking, but rather that the person in charge of the ship is too preoccupied with blaming the waves to even look at the compass. Indiana will have 2 options if it continues down this path. Either accept the repercussions or switch coaches. There was more to this game against Dallas than just a 1-point defeat. Everything that was wrong with the Fever at the moment was peeled off. It revealed the referee's partiality. It exposed Stephanie White's shortcomings as a coach and demonstrated how shaky the team's core is. The WNBA now has an option: resolve these problems or run the danger of losing the momentum and trust they've worked so hard to establish. So let me ask you a question. Was this only a poor night or a deeper warning sign? This season's storm is far from over, so leave your thoughts in the comments and stay